All right, today we're going to break down a really powerful framework called neurodiverse skill stacking. It's an incredible way to unlock this huge and honestly often overlooked source of human potential. And this isn't just about inclusion, it's about finding a real competitive edge. So let's get right into it.
First, let's start with a number that should honestly just stop all of us in our tracks. For a huge number of neurodiverse adults, we're talking folks with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, the unemployment and underemployment rate is a staggering 60 to 80%. That's not a small gap, that's a chasm.
And a number like that forces you to ask a really crucial question. Is this really about individual inability, or is it a sign of a massive, massive systemic failure? A failure of our workplaces, of our economies, to even recognize, let alone harness, a completely different kind of intelligence. And it turns out the answer really points to this fundamental misalignment. See, the core issue isn't a lack of talent at all. It's that neurodiverse minds are trying to operate in a world that was pretty much built for one specific, very linear way of thinking. And just think about the scale of this for a second. We are not talking about some tiny fraction of people here. Neurodiversity affects an estimated 15 to 20% of the entire global population. That is a massive pool of cognitive talent that we are systematically and kind of foolishly sidelining. So the big question is, how do we fix this misalignment? Well, it all starts with a pretty radical reframe. We have to stop seeing difference as a deficit and start understanding it as a distinction, as a unique set of what you could even call cognitive superpowers. Okay, so think about ADHD. It's so often just seen as chaos, right? An inability to focus. But if you apply this reframe, you start to see its true nature. Its incredible creative firepower. Its rapid-fire ideas, boundless energy, and a mind that just naturally explores the unconventional path. You give it just enough structure, and suddenly that chaos becomes the very engine of innovation. Well, let's take autism, which is so often stereotyped as just social isolation. But what's actually happening under the surface is this profound capacity for systems intelligence. And what that means is exceptional pattern recognition, serious analytical rigor, and deep logical thinking. I mean, these are absolutely invaluable assets in any field that demands substance over just noise. And then you've got dyslexia, which is so often misunderstood as just a simple reading impairment. The reframe here is to see it as a cognitive operating system that's just optimized for big picture thinking. Dyslexic minds are brilliant at spotting holistic patterns, making connections that everyone else misses, and crafting compelling narratives, all skills that are crucial for strategy and leadership.
Okay, so having these strengths is one thing, but how do you actually make them valuable in the real world? Well, that's where the power of skill stacking comes in. This is the practical, hands-on framework for translating these innate abilities into tangible, high-value capabilities.
So what even is skill stacking? Look, it's not about becoming the world's absolute best at one single thing. No, instead, it's the intentional strategy of combining several complementary skills. The real magic happens in the mix, right there at the intersection. That's where you create a unique capability that's rare, resilient, and way more powerful than any one skill could ever be in isolation.
And it really just breaks down into three core parts. First, you anchor yourself in your deep skill. That's that natural cognitive strength we were just talking about. Second, you add what are called supporting skills. These are the practical abilities that help you translate that deep skill for the outside world. And the result? You get this T-shaped capability. Deep expertise in one area, but with the breadth to actually apply it effectively.
Okay, so that's the theory. Now let's actually put it into practice and see how these stacks create real-world, high-value roles. This, right here, is where the rubber meets the road.
This is where it all clicks. So you take someone with that ADHD creative firepower, right? And you add a supporting skill like design thinking to give it some structure. All of a sudden, they're not just chaotic, they're an innovation leader. Or you take an autistic individual with that deep systems intelligence, and they stack on coding and data visualization. Now, they're a highly sought-after systems analyst. And someone with that dyslexic big picture thinking, they add storytelling and marketing, and they become a brilliant brand strategist. See, these aren't just jobs. They are unique, high-impact roles that are incredibly difficult for anyone or any AI to automate.
And when you zoom out, you start to see that the impact of this approach goes way beyond just one person's career. When we start unlocking this potential at scale, the implications for all of us are, well, they're profound.
For individuals, it means economic independence and the basic dignity of contribution.
For organizations, it means gaining access to the exact kind of creative, nonlinear problem solving that makes them more innovative and competitive. And for society as a whole, it means building more resilient economies by unlocking a type of intelligence our complex world desperately needs to solve its biggest challenges.
And all of this leads to this incredibly powerful shift in mindset, which is just captured perfectly by this quote. It's a move away from passively asking for accommodation and towards proactively demonstrating undeniable, unique value and doing it on your own terms.
So we'll end by turning the lens back on you, because honestly, this is a universal principle. Instead of asking ourselves, why can't I fit in? A far more powerful question to ask is, what systems, what skills, and what environment allow me to function at my absolute best? That's the code worth cracking for every single one of us.